All right, Chase Sr. here, host of the 49ers Report by Chat Sports, bringing you a video from home because we have some important 49ers news to get to pertaining to Kyle Shanahan's coaching staff. Is DeMeco Ryans going to stay on as defensive coordinator, and is Mike McDaniel, the offensive coordinator, going to leave as the leading candidate for the Miami Dolphins to take over for Brian Flores? This is why you subscribe to the channel. 49ers are done playing games, but our coverage doesn't stop. We're bringing you the latest 49ers news and rumors. Hit that red subscribe button down below, because whether we're doing videos from home or at the Chat Sports studios, which is usually our setup, we have you covered with all things Niners. So Tom Pelissero of NFL Network with this news tweeted this out a little while ago. I was meal prepping for the week, so able to do a video now because I literally had food cooking in the air fryer. 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans declined a second interview with the Minnesota Vikings, per source, opting to further his development in San Francisco, where, of course, he was named defensive coordinator prior to the year to take over for Robert Saleh, who took the head coaching job with the New York Jets. So 4 remain in Minnesota's head coaching search. Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell, according to Pelissero, defensive coordinator Raheem Morris of the Rams, Giants defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, and Jim Harbaugh, head coach of Michigan. Pelissero added the Vikings plan to fly in Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh for an interview Wednesday in Minnesota, per sources. The two sides spoke Saturday to gauge Harbaugh's interest in the head coaching job. Now another big step towards Harbaugh potentially returning to the NFL, where he has had a lot of success before, of course, with the Niners, helping lead them to the NFC Championship game in year one, long-standing success during his short stint with the Niners. And when it comes to DeMeco Ryans, this is huge news for the Niners moving forward for the 2022 season, where the Super Bowl window remains. We're not sure who the starting quarterback of San Francisco is going to be, whether it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, another quarterback out there, but this defense has some studs on that side of the ball, and they could once again, like they were from week 10 on, be one of the best units in the NFL. There were certainly some growing pains early, but following and starting in week 10, that primetime game against the Los Angeles Rams, DeMeco Ryans' unit really was terrific. They couldn't get stops late against the Rams in the NFC Championship game, and a lot of people are putting the blame on the defense for that. I actually put the blame on the offense, because they couldn't stay on the field for long, sustainable drives, and because of that, 49ers defense played so many snaps, and by the end, they looked tired against a very good offense. Now, you take a look at the turnaround from DeMeco's defense starting in week 10. So weeks 1 through 9, 25 points per game, 338 total yards per game, 206 passing yards per game, 131 rushing yards per game, only 5 turnovers. Weeks 10 through 20, leading up to the NFC Championship game, 17 points. They only gave up 20 in the NFC title game, 285 total yards, 207 passing. Rushing yards down 77.2 yards from 131.5, and turnovers up from 5 to 17. That was really a part of the Niners' turnaround, where going into Sunday, that allowed them to reel off 9 of their last 11 games, resulting in victories and 3 consecutive wins on the road in do-or-die spots against really good teams as underdogs. Rams, you come back from 17-0. You take down the Cowboys. Highest scoring, highest yard-producing offense in the NFL. DeMeco shut them down. And then the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers, led by the likely MVP and Aaron Rodgers. Very good offense up until the NFC divisional round, where DeMeco's defense was once again spectacular, helping propel the Niners into the NFC Championship game. I understand the inclement weather had something to do with that game being low scoring at Lambeau Field, but Aaron Rodgers drove right through the heart of that Niners defense on the opening drive of the game, and after that point, final 54-plus minutes, Niners defense only surrendered 3 points. That's terrific, miraculous work, and it was led in part by DeMeco Ryans. The outlook for this defense for 2022, we'll wrap up here with DeMeco and then go to Mike McDaniel, the reports on him. This is a defense that has a lot of good players. Nick Bosa, tremendous year, 15.5 sacks in the regular season, 4+ more in the playoffs. You have Eric Armstead, who, after he moved from edge to DT, was fabulous. Last 5-6 weeks, he was one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. DJ Jones as a D tackle against the run especially was fabulous. He's a free agent, said today that he'd like to return. Arden Key is a free agent as well. He only got $1-2 million this year and was really, really good. Like Eric Armstead, DeMeco Ryans slid him inside, and as a defensive tackle instead of an edge rusher, he was able to produce. Samson Ebukam came on late. Jordan Willis had the block punt on special teams against the Packers, but is a good rotational player along the D-line. Charles Omenihu, the trade deadline acquisition with the Houston Texans, started to really do some things late. It's a complex scheme, difficult to grasp at start, but over time, guys like Omenihu and Samson Ebukam, they produced for this defense at the end of the year. And because that D-line was so good, and because the theme for the Niners was getting pressure on the quarterback by rushing 4 and only getting occasional blitzes called from the sideline, which is really impressive. If you don't have to blitz and you can get home with 4, you're sitting pretty, and that's really a big component of the Niners' defensive turnaround. But with the defensive line playing so well, it's almost like we forgot about Javon Kinlaw, first-round pick from 2 years ago, who has been marred by injuries, but does have ability when he's able to stay on the field, had that surgery to his ACL. The linebacking core behind the defensive line, I think, is one of the best in the NFL. All-Pro Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shire. That's a fabulous linebacking core. I would challenge you to come up with a better 3-man linebacking core across the NFL that's as deep and as talented and has some high-end talent led by Fred Warner across the NFL. And then the safety tandem is good too. Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tartt. I went back, rewatched the game today. The pick by Tartt that he missed was just brutal. It was basically a punt, could have changed the game, led to the Rams getting 3. You pick it off there, you flip the momentum. We know the story. But he is a good safety, especially for what the Niners are paying, not just him, but Jimmy Ward as well. One of the biggest needs this offseason for the Niners and DeMeco Ryans' defense, they have to either draft and or sign a cornerback. Like what I saw from Ambry Thomas down the stretch, K'Wan Williams, Emmanuel Mosley, very, very good players, but you can't afford, if you want to compete for a Super Bowl, to experiment with guys like Josh Norman and Dre Kirkpatrick. Can't do it. Get a better one in the second round of the NFL draft. I think that's the biggest need on this team, and or sign a cornerback as well. Would not be opposed to either of those instances, and I hope San Francisco goes that direction. Now let's pivot to Mike McDaniel. This is pretty important stuff. Offensive coordinator for the Niners might be leaving, defensive coordinator staying. Adam Beasley with this report of Pro Football Network, formerly of the Miami Herald. Quote, there were widespread rumors over the weekend that Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh emerged as a late candidate for the Dolphins' job to take over for Brian Flores, but our understanding based on conversations with multiple league sources and fairly obvious contextual clues is that Mike McDaniel is the focus of the team search now that Brian Dable is unavailable. He took the head coaching job with the Giants, McDaniel, 38, could be hired at any time now. Had the 49ers beaten the Rams in the NFC Championship game, he would have been unavailable until after the Super Bowl, but with San Francisco's loss on Sunday, there's nothing stopping the Dolphins from offering McDaniel the job and him accepting it this week. He had a second interview, at least was scheduled to have that second interview with the Miami Dolphins today on Monday, and that did go according to plan, I believe. Mike McDaniel also met with the team prior to the wild card round of the NFL playoffs, one of 7 known candidates for the job. So it's kind of funny how Harbaugh is intertwined with DeMeco Ryans and Mike McDaniel as the former head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Quick background on McDaniel. Go watch his press clips. He really has a fun personality. He doesn't hit you with a bunch of coach speak that's really mundane and boring. He keeps it real, he keeps it fun, he keeps it entertaining, and his background and his story is pretty fascinating. He's been Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man since about 2006. That's when they started working together, went to Yale, and since then his path has been pretty fascinating. Started off as an intern with the Denver Broncos in 2005, offensive assistant with the Texans 06 to 08, had alcohol troubles, And that spoiled his NFL dreams up to that point. So then in 2009-2010, coached with the Sacramento Mountain Lions, gets back into the league under Mike Shanahan in 2011 with the Washington football team as an offensive assistant. Does that for 11 and 12, 2013 wide receivers coach. 2014 goes with Kyle from Washington, as they spent time in Houston and Washington up to this point, to Cleveland as a wide receivers coach. Goes to the Falcons with Shanahan as an offensive assistant, run game coordinator for the Niners from 2017 to 2020, elevated to offensive coordinator in 2021 after Mike LaFleur left. So pretty cool story for Mike McDaniel, and he's legitimately been with Kyle Shanahan and has known him going all the way back to 2006. Of course, the theme here too, Shanahan has his coaching tree, and Sean McVay has his coaching tree. Zach Taylor, Brandon Staley, Matt LaFleur, McVay, Shanahan all worked together in Washington. So too did Mike McDaniel. And Mike McDaniel has kind of been credited with allowing this 49ers offense to get creative in the run game and allow that component of the offense to really explode. And he's also been credited at 38 years old, very ripe age. Everybody's trying to look for that young, hot next offensive mind with experimenting and coming up with some ideas to get Deebo Samuel to rock, making him a running back to just get the ball in the hands of your best playmakers. And obviously that worked to great benefit for this Niners offense, as he went on to have one of the best, most masterful all-around offensive campaigns. So if McDaniel leaves, hey, good for him, obviously, but it could, have an impact on Kyle Shanahan's offense. Although I think worlds of Kyle Shanahan as an offensive mind, I think he'll be able to adjust on the fly and still come up with some of those creative ideas. So that's the latest on the 49ers coaching staff led by Kyle Shanahan. One lead assistant, DeMeco Ryans, appears to be staying. The other, Mike McDaniel, could be going. We'll, of course, keep you updated right here on the 49ers Report. That's why you subscribe. I'll be going live tomorrow as well, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. A lot to get into. Talk to you then.